Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ndeendah of Ndeendah Exclusive Crochets. And on today's video, I want to show you how you can use your scrap yarn to create this amazing, beautiful cropped sweater. It is hooded, as you can see, and it is beautiful, as you can see. So before we get into it, I would kindly ask you to subscribe to this YouTube channel because I have made a commitment to be dropping gems every week. So subscribe to my YouTube channel and let's get into it. The major requirement has to be your scrap yarn. So all that yarn that is left over from your other projects, this is where you're going to make use of it. So grab all the scrap yarn that you have and we will work with that. Your other requirement definitely is your crochet hook. I have two crochet hooks. I have a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook and a 4.0 millimeter crochet hook. And I will show you how exactly I am going to be using both of them. This is the one that I'll be using majorly. And this one I'll be using especially to sew off the different parts together and to work the cuffing part of the sleeves. So I'll show you where I'll use this, but this is the major one. Also, it's not cast on stone that you need the two of them. If you like, you can just use one of them. But for this one, I prefer using a smaller hook when I am joining my parts together because it gives me more definition. And also for the ribbing part, especially the cuffs, because I want them to be more defined. That's why I'm going to use this smaller hook. But this works perfectly fine. For those who don't like joining using the crochet hook, you can use darning needle. You just need one of these. So you can use a darning needle. If you don't like attaching using a crochet hook, you can use a darning needle. But for me in this project, I am going to be using a crochet hook. So I will show you how we'll be attaching using the crochet hook. But if you don't prefer that, you can attach using darning needle. Next, you'll definitely require a tape measure. This one is to measure the size and the length of your project. And finally, a pair of scissors. You're going to need stitch markers, and this we're going to use especially when we're starting to join the parts together. Before we start, allow me to mention something that I think is very important, especially when you're working with your scrap yarn. Use one solid color and preferably a neutral color like maybe black or white to start your projects and to finish off your projects. That will make sure that your work, especially when you're joining in the other parts, it doesn't look messy and it doesn't look ugly because definitely the yarn that you're going to use to attach, I also usually recommend that you use either a black yarn or white yarn to attach your pieces together because you don't want all sorts of colors popping out from, the parts that you have joined. The major stitch that we're going to be using is double crochets. So in this project, we don't have any patterns. Okay, we have just one, which I'm going to show you. So we are going to be using double crochets and only a very small part where we're going to be using single crochets and we're going to be doing ribbed stitches. And that is when we are working the cuff of the sleeve. But we will get there, but I will show you that when we get there. So for now, we're just going to be using double crochets. That's all. I told you this tutorial is super beginner friendly. So if you know how to work a double crochet, this one is for you. So to start, you will definitely start with the number of chains that are equal to the size of the width of your sweater. For me, I am going to be doing 90 chains because that is the size that I want my sweater to be. So I will chain 90 chain depending on the width of your sweater. I'm done working my foundation chain. So for the first row, we are going to do it in this same color. So dependent on the color that you started with, that is the same color that you're going to do. So make sure you do double crochets. For instance, in this case, black double crochets till the end of this chain. To work a double crochet, this is how we go about it. This is for if you're an absolute beginner. So you yarn over your yarn, you skip this very first chain space And on the second chain space, you insert your crochet hook on that second chain space, grab your yarn, pull it through that chain space. You will have 3 loops on your crochet hook. 1, 2, 3. You will yarn over your yarn again, and then you will pull through 2 of your loops. You will be left with 2 loops, and then you will yarn over again and pull through the both loops. That is how you achieve a double crochet. Let's do it again one more time. So you will yarn over. On the very next chain space, you will insert your crochet hook. You will grab your yarn and you will pull it through the chain space. You will have 3 loops on your crochet hook, and then you will yarn over, pull through 2 loops. You will be left with 2 loops on your crochet hook, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops. That is how you do a double crochet. The last one, let's do it again. So you're just going to repeat the same thing throughout the whole of the project. Yarn over, insert hook in the next chain space, grab your yarn, pull it through. You have 3 loops on your crochet hook, yarn over, pull through 2. You're left with 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2. You have 1 loop. So that is how you achieve a double crochet. So you're going to work double crochets until you get to the very last chain space. And when we get to the last chain space, I will show you how we go to the next row. I'm done working the first row of my front panel. So let me show you how we attach the next color. I will use my scissors to cut the yarn. So I'll be left with a very small tail here. This is how we attach the colors from different rows. So I will grab this next. This is my scrap yarn. I will grab this yarn and then I will just grab it with my crochet hook and make sure it's inserted on the space there. And then I will tie it tightly by stretching this tail that was left. Hold the 2 tails together, put them on the back, and then chain 2 because we are moving to the next row. Turn your work. Now, this is what I usually prefer doing. I prefer sewing in the ends as I go. So I'm going to grab these 2 yarns and then do a double crochet on the very first chain, on the very first stitch as I sew this in. So you can see on this other side, I have held them and I will sew them in like that and then do a double crochet. So another double crochet, next stitch, make sure you are sewing this in. So grab your yarn and do a double crochet. So until these are sewn in completely, that's when you will continue working normally. So double crochet. You can see we're almost done sewing them in. So you just hold them like that together and then do a double crochet. So I'm done sewing them in together and now I can continue with my normal double crochets in every stitch. So when you check the back here, you'll find that you had sewn in the yarn and just this little one that is peeping, you will use your scissors and you will cut Ugh, and you will cut. So your work is seamless. Then you continue working your normal double crochets. As you can see, the scrap yarn that we had is almost over. So to attach the next color, this is how I attach my colors as I go through my job. I will grab my other scrap yarn, and these two ends of the scrap yarn, what I'm gonna do, I will make sure this end and this end are on opposite sides. So what I'll do, I'll make a knot using the yellow yarn on the gray yarn. So I'll just turn this and make a knot here. Make sure the knot is tight. And on this other end, I'll use the gray yarn to make a knot on the yellow yarn. That. And it's tight. So you can see how it looks like. And then you will pull your yarn together. Grab your scissors and cut the loose ends. And there you have it. You have seamlessly attached your work. This cannot come out. See, I'm pulling it very strongly and it will not unravel. So I just make sure I squeeze it a little bit to make sure that the knot is smoother. And then I continue with my work. And it's that simple. So that is how you're going to be attaching all your yarns. It doesn't matter whether you're at the end or in the middle or wherever. The only part that you cut your yarn is when you're done working the first row of the black double crochets. The rest, you just you just join your yarn with a knot as you move. I've worked my second color and you can see the yarn is almost over. So I'm going to grab my other color and we are going to join the same way I had told you. So you put the yarns, the ends, the loose ends facing directly opposite each other. And then you will use this yarn to make a knot on the working yarn that you have currently. Make a knot. And then you make a knot on this other end with the loose side, the loose end side. You make a knot, then pull it together. Take your scissors and cut the loose ends. And then just squeeze it a little to make sure that the end is smooth. And you just continue with your work in making your normal double crochets. So that's just how you go about it. And you will continue this process until you achieve the length, the desired length of your sweater or cardigan, or whatever it is you're working on. I am at the end of row 2, and this is how the work looks like. So it doesn't matter where the scrap yarn ends, you'll just attach with another color, just join with another color, and then continue your project. So moving on to the next row, as usual, you chain 1, 2, you turn your work, and then continue working double crochets as usual. Here I'm at the end of row 3. So moving on to the next row, we'll chain 2, turn our work, and just continue working double crochets. So that's what we're going to do, back and forth, just double crochets. When you're moving to the next row, you chain 2 until you have your desired length of your sweater. I'm done working my front panel. This is how it looks like. This was the desired width from shoulder to shoulder. This was the width, and this was the length, because it's going to be a cropped sweater. So the length, it's not too long. So this is the length. As you can see, I definitely started with double crochets, black double crochets. So my first row is in black and my last row is also in black. The length is 13 inches. So that is how I want it. If you prefer it to be longer, then you can do more rows to make it longer. So, but this is for me. This is it for me because I want it to be a cropped sweater. I also worked my back panel. So make sure you have 2 identical parts for the front and the back panel. Make sure they're all the same size. So I have the front panel, back panel. We're moving on to making the sleeves. And as you can see, I have 2 different sizes of crochet hooks. I have a 4.0 millimeter crochet hook and I have a 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. So I want the cuff of my sleeve to be very detailed. That's why I'm going to be using a smaller crochet hook for the ribbing part. To start us off, I will chain 20 because 20 chains with my smaller hook, which is the 4.0 millimeter crochet hook, 20 chains is equivalent to 4 inches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. To achieve the ribbing pattern, I will do single crochets, back loop only because it's a ribbing pattern. So we will do single crochets, back loop only. For single crochet, this is what you do for a single crochet. You just insert your hook, you pull up your yarn, you yarn over, you pull it through. Insert your hook, pull up your yarn over, pull through. Insert your hook, pull out your yarn over, pull through. Insert your hook, pull out your yarn over, pull through. So we're going to make single crochets till the end and we're going to work with single crochets. So let me finish this row and then I'll show you how we are going to achieve the ribbing pattern. So as we move on to the next row, what we're going to do, you will chain 1, 2. So chain 2 so that it is easier for us to make the other, stitches when we are working the sleeve. So chain 2, turn your work. We're still going to be using single crochets, but for this very fast, chain space, we're going to just insert our hook in there, pull out your yarn, and then yarn over, pull through. To work the ribbing stitch, this is what we're going to do. So when you check out your work, it's usually hard to see when you're using, black yarn, but I don't know, on top of your stitches, you can see V stitches. You can see V stitches. So on this V stitches, instead of going into all of them, you will only go into the back loop only. So this is the back loop only, the one that is farthest away from you. That is the back loop. So you go into the back loop and make a single crochet. Into the next one, you go to the back loop and make a single crochet. Next one, you go into the back loop and make a single crochet. So you work on your back loops. As you can see, it started to form a ribbing over here. So you'll work your back loops except for the very first and the very last stitches, just to make sure that our work is straight. That's why for the very first stitch and for the very last stitch, we will do them in the chain space that is immediately above them. But for the rest of the stitches, we are going to be stitching and chaining and making our single crochets on the back loop only. So let's do that. And then I will show you how it looks like at the end. So back loop only, sorry, back loop only, and then single crochet. Back loop only, single crochet. So we're gonna do that until we're at the end. And at the very end, make sure you don't miss the stitch. I am done working the width of the cuff. So for me, this happened to be 32 rows. So I've done 32 rows of ribbing. Since we're done working the cuff, we want to work on the body part. And now we'll take off the 4.0 millimeter crochet hook. And we'll now take our 4.5 millimeter crochet hook, which is going to enable us to work on the body part. So I usually prefer the first row to be the same color as the cuff to avoid just unnecessary untidiness at the attachment place. Now to work the body part, we're going to start by chaining 2, and this will work as our very first double crochet. And on each and every space on these rows that you created, you are going to make 2 double crochets. So that is going to act as the foundation of our sleeve. That means we are increasing. So in each and every space, in each and every row, you make sure you put 2 double crochets. So we have 1 here, and on this very same one, we will still do another 1 double crochet to make sure that they are 2. On the next space, which is here, we're going to do 2 double crochets. So 1, 2. So you're going to make sure you have 2 double crochets in each space above each row until the end. Even at the end, you make sure you do 2 double crochets. This is what it looks like after I have increased and I have done the foundation of the body. It looks a little bit wavy, but that's okay because we have done increases. So what we have basically created here is this part here, the cuff. So the cuff and the very first row. And then moving on to the other stitches, you will do your different colors depending on how you want them. So you can use your scrap yarn and now just work normal double crochets, no increases, no nothing. So in each and every stitch, you will do double crochets. You will now get your different colors of scrap yarn and attach and join according to how you like, depending on how you want them to look like. So for instance, here, I'll just attach my pink one. And then I will do normal double crochets. So just start by chaining 2, and on each and every, chain, in each and every stitch, you do normal double crochets. So I'm going to be sewing in the, loose ends. So normal double crochets. Just 1 double crochet in each and every stitch. And then you continue that way until you have a sleeve that is the size of your arm. So The reason as to why I sew in the loose ends as I go is to just ensure the neatness of my project and my work so that even when I'm cutting the yarn, it's easier not to see yarn that is protruding. So here you'll just do your normal double crochets. And then you'll keep building and building until you're done. So when you're moving to the next row, you'll just chain two and then work that row. Chain two, work that row. Chain two, work that row. So you'll continue doing double crochets, just normal double crochets until the end of your work. I'm done working the sleeve, and as you can see, this is the length that I had measured. So this is the size. That is 16 inches. These are 34 rows. And then if we add the inches here, yeah, if we add the inches there, it becomes 20 inches. So when we do the whole length of the sleeve, it becomes 20 inches, which was the size of my sleeve. Once you're done, you'll do another one so that you can have two sleeves. And that's how my sleeves are looking. I worked the hoodie part off camera because it's nothing complicated, so I'm just going to explain to you. You start with a chain of 50 to make sure that that's the foundation, and then you will do a total of 20 complete rows. So once you have your 20 complete rows, when you come to the end here, you will decrease. So you won't crochet up to the end. You will decrease and you will make sure you leave 3 stitches at the end. Then work your next row. When you come to this side, leave 3 stitches. Come to the next row, leave 3 stitches, 3 stitches, 3 stitches for the next 10 rows. And you will have something that looks like this. So this is the part where we're going to join to make sure we have our hooded part. So you will work this and you will work 2 of them. So make sure they are all identical and the same size. When I say identical, I don't mean color-wise, but size-wise, make sure they are the same so that it's easier to sew all together because we're going to sew from this end all the way to this end. When it comes to attaching the parts of your hoodie, the 2 parts of your hoodie, what you're going to do, you will make sure you assemble your work in a way that they are all identical. And then you will sew from this end, moving this way, up to this end. This is how it looks like after I am done attaching and sewing the 2 parts together. Make sure you sew with black or white yarn to just make sure, you know, your work is not untidy. So this is how it looks like. But this is the wrong side. So when we turn our work, this is how it's supposed to look like. So you have your hoodie there. This is how it looks like. We now want to join the parts together. So I have my front panel and my back panel. I have attached stitch markers at the very end of both to make sure that they are equal. So end, you put your stitch markers. Now I want to show you how we're going to attach the hoodie to the front and back panel. Here is our hoodie. The first thing you're going to do is you will fold your work into half to identify where the middle is. You're going to put a stitch marker at the very middle part there. This is to identify where the middle is and where we're going to attach the hoodie because the hoodie has to be attached at the center. Here's our hoodie, and this is the middle part where you sewed in your hoodie together. This is the middle part. So you are going to attach the stitch marker that you attach to your back panel to the middle part of that hoodie so that your work can look like that. You can see we have our stitch marker at the middle and with the middle of our back panel. Next, you're going to grab two more stitch markers, and then the hoodie part, you will fold it to this middle part, and then you will attach your stitch marker to this end that forms the middle of this part. You'll do the same for this other side. You will fold it to the middle part of the hoodie. The middle part is where we put this middle stitch marker, and then you will put a stitch marker here to identify this middle. So when you open your hoodie, you have three different points. Now these two stitch markers that we attached on this point, we are going to attach them to both our front panels and our back panels. So now once we have that, is when we're going to start stitching so that we can know what to attach at what point and what not to attach at what point. So this part that is left is going to be attached to the front panel. These two parts will be attached to the front panels only. This other part will be attached to the back panel only. And then these two parts at these ends, we will attach just the back panel and the front panel. I want to show you how I attach my parts together. So I will grab my black yarn, which is the neutral yarn, and I will use single crochets to attach my parts together. So I'll take off this stitch marker. I have my yarn, so I will just grab my yarn and I will pass it through my two parts. Make sure that this loose ends, you sew them in, and then I will do a single crochet. And for the very first one, I make sure I do two single crochets on the same stitch to make sure that I have secured the parts properly. And then now I will continue sewing in together using single crochets. So just the same thing you have been doing, but now we are attaching the parts using single crochets and sewing in the loose ends together. So I will attach all of them, all my parts using single crochets and my black yarn. So you'll keep attaching using your single crochets until you get to this point where you attached the hoodie and the two panels together. So when you get here, you will just seal it off and cut your yarn. You're going to do the same thing, attaching the same thing as you did on this other side. So attach them with single crochets or a darning needle if you want, and then I'll show you how to go about it after that. So now we want to attach the hoodie to the sweater. What you're gonna do, this part that you folded on this end, so you're going to attach this part to the front panel up to this point where you attached your stitch marker. So this part here will be attached to the front panel, and then when you get to this stitch marker, you will remove the stitch marker and attach the other part to the back panel up to this other point. When you get to this other point, you take this part that is left and you will attach this part to the front panel. So attach using single crochets And then when we get done, I'll show you how it looks like. We now want to attach the sleeve to the part of the sweater. So what we're gonna do, you have your sleeve that looks like this. So look for the wrong side and make sure the wrong side is going to be outside so that when you sew in, the right side is inside. So you have your sleeve like this. My wrong side is this side. I will fold my sleeve into two. I will grab my stitch marker, which I will put where the middle is. At the center, like that. Once you have attached your sleeve to the center part of the sleeve, once you have attached your stitch marker to the center part of the sleeve, you will come to your sweater, and this part where you joined the shoulder part, this is where you will attach your stitch marker at the very end. So you will attach your stitch marker there. Make sure it's firm and secure. And then once you have it like that, you will do the same for the other sleeve. And then you're going to open up your work. So this is the front and the back panel. You already attached your stitch marker. You have the front and back panel like that. And then you will spread your sleeve like that. And then you will attach your stitch marker on this end to the end where the sweater is. And then on this end, and attach it to the other panel. So your work looks like this. And now you're going to attach your sleeve to the front and back panels using single crochets. So you're going to work single crochets from this end to this end, and you will replicate the same thing to the other sleeve. So work your single crochets from this end all the way to this end, and then replicate it, and I will show you how we're going to attach once we're done. We're done doing the sleeve, and it is attached to both the front and the back panel. This is how it looks like, attached using single crochets. So now what we're going to do, we will just hold our work together like this, and then make sure we've folded it for it to look like a proper sleeve. And then also ensure that this part and this part, the remaining sizes of the front and the back panel, are equal so that you don't find that one side is longer than the other one. And then now we're going to crochet and attach. We're going to attach the sleeve to the panel as we complete. So we'll start from this end, this cuff part. We'll attach using single crochets all the way to this part, and then once we're on this part, we continue doing the single crochets up to this part. So you'll find that it's going to be a complete sweater. So we're going to do that, and once we do that, we'll be done working our sweater. So guys, I am done attaching all the parts. This is how the sleeve looks like. So I have attached the sleeve to itself, and I've attached it to the front and back panels. So that's basically it. This is the wrong side, so you'll turn your work inside out. And there you have your beautiful, amazing scrap yarn sweater. Let me put it on and show you how it looks like.